Hello and welcome to the Leaders of Transformation podcast, the number one show for business leaders and entrepreneurs passionate about inspiring others and making a greater difference in the world. I'm your host, Nicole Jansen, and you can join us live every Tuesday where we have another amazing guest who is a difference maker, a world changer, somebody that is an expert on leadership, on business, societal transformation. We cover a lot on this show, mindset and so forth. And so I encourage you to join us every week. Now, this show is actually brought to you by my coaching and training development company, which is the Leaders of Transformation. And if you are a leader or an aspiring leader, and you are ready to break through your ceiling of success and take your business and your impact to another level, you can reach out to me. We can talk about that. I offer a free consult for leaders, aspiring leaders, and visionary leaders. And you can go to leadersoftrandsformation.com/coaching for information on how to get connected with me, learn more about me. And if you're looking for a coach, I'd love to support you in that way, because I do believe that leaders of transformation are the people that change the world. And so that is my passion, is helping leaders be the most effective that they can possibly be able to solve complex business issues, relational issues, and really bring the core values that are needed in business today so that we can have a just and prosperous world for everyone. So that's my passion, my soapbox, and I'll get off it for now for a moment. But we've actually got, speaking of which, we have an amazing guest who I'm going to be bringing on in a second, who is going to talk about what he's actually doing. He's living this in his business right now. And I'm just really excited to have him here today. Let me bring him on. Tim, welcome to the Leaders of Transformation. We're excited that you're here. Tim is actually he is the founder of The Healthy Place, and they have 4 locations in Wisconsin, and they also have a warehouse. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it. What they do is they're in the health and wellness business. They have an e-commerce business. They have stores. And what I love about what Tim is doing is that he's actually bringing integrity and his faith into the business. And so his core values, he's bringing that into the business space. And he's going to talk a little bit about that today. And so we're just excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm thankful to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And for those of you that are watching, those of you that are going to be tuning in, if you have questions, please, you can drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that Tim answers those questions while we're here live. So, and then tell us where you're listening from. We'd love to hear. We actually have listeners on this podcast. We have listeners in 140 countries on the different platforms that it goes out to. This now, of course, we're just starting with the lives. And so we're doing that to Facebook and YouTube, and ultimately we'll be doing that to LinkedIn and other platforms. And so if you have a question, please drop it in the chat box, because I think what Tim is going to talk about here today is going to generate some questions and maybe some comments. I mean, you might agree with some things, you might disagree with some things. And so we're going to get into that, and we welcome that conversation. That's why we're doing lives, so that we can have that opportunity to discuss it. So with that in mind, we've got Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa. She is listening in from Oceanside. Oh, little shout out for Vanessa. She is awesome. I actually just recently got connected to her, and this is a shout out for what she's doing. She actually has a motel, which she is renting out rooms and helping people that are currently homeless, being able to have a space where and a place where they can get grounded and settled, get food and
cool.
Shelter. So I just love what she is doing. She is making a huge difference. She started this during COVID, and she is raising money. I heard someone say that she needs to raise a few $1,000s every day just to be able to keep the families housed and be able to get them on their feet. So thank you, Vanessa, for what it is that you do. And awesome. So, and we're glad you're here. And I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Tim. Okay, so Tim, let's talk about a little bit more. I didn't do you justice in terms of a bio in the success that you've had with
fun. Yeah.
Healthy Place. I'm going to leave that to you to share with us a little bit more about the Healthy Place. How did it start? Why did it start? Give me a little bit more of a backstory on that.
Yeah. I still get excited telling the story because you just start to see how God works, and he just sort of like sews these tapestries of magnificence, and it's to his glory, and he knows the beginning from the end and the end from the beginning, and it's like, dang, it's like he knows what he's doing or something, you know? So when I was 5 or 6 years old, my mom fought through cancer, and much of her recovery ultimately ended up being through natural alternatives. And I just remember being a little 5 or 6 year old, a lot of fear in the home. You know, the family was worried, watching mom lose her hair, watching her go through chemotherapy, radiation. And she came home one day with a little spark in her eye, and she had talked and spent hours. She ran into a health food store in a small town called Muskego, Wisconsin. And somebody named John talked to her for hours about natural alternatives and how much science there is and reason to believe that it could help her thyroid cancer. So she came home encouraged, and that started what would be dozens and dozens and dozens of visits to this little, podunk health food store that was making a difference in my mom's life. And us kids would go along with her and be bored as heck, waiting, staring at the vitamin C bottles, shaking them, getting yelled at. And, it turned into helping my mom recover. And it turned into her becoming a manager of that health food store because she was so inspired with natural alternatives. And us kids were homeschooled. So we grew up in this back room watching my mom talk to people about chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, different medications, encouraging them to talk to their doctor or their pharmacist about this or about that. And we got to watch these testimonies unfold where people were getting helped. Testimonies were being created. She was taking the hand of other people that were battling cancer, walking them through the same journey. And that was inspiring to me as a little guy and growing up in my teen years. And I had this pretty radical encounter when I was like 18 years old, where I was really not living my life for God at all. It was just like, I'm going to just live life my way. I kind of believed in God and pushed him into the corner over here. And I like almost saw this like vision. It was kind of an experience, daydream, whatever you want to call it, where I just saw that the enemy or the devil, was like a puppet. My life was just being controlled because I just was doing life my way, but it was really the way I was into drugs. I was into, I used to steal from stores. I was a really angry, rebellious teenager. And I had this encounter where I was like, man, my life is not being controlled by God. I'm not giving my life to him. I'm sort of like letting the devil control my life, or however you want to say that. And so at that moment, when I was 18, I gave my life to the Lord. And I said, okay, I've been in the driver's seat of the car of my life, and I want to get in the passenger seat and let Jesus, get in the driver's seat. And that's where I gave my life to him. So through that experience, I was really fascinated by the fact that we only have 80 years on planet Earth. And everything we do in this life can make an eternal, positive or negative, eternal impact. And it was sort of like wild, like, man, I have 80 years that I could make a really powerful, positive, eternal impact, or I could keep in my drugs and my way of living that's just going to be all about me and like make a negative eternal impact, not add a lot of value anywhere. And so it was between that, my experience with my mom at that health food store, growing up watching those testimonies, becoming passionate about natural alternatives, and meeting my maker, so to speak, and giving my life to him, sparking a passion to make a difference, to impact, empower, and educate those around me, that was married to be like, okay, well, what should I do then? I have this passion. I have this. Okay. So 2010, Becki and I had been dating Becki, and we got married recently. And 2010, let's start our own health food store. And maybe it's one store. I didn't really have a vision beyond that, but that was the story behind why we started that store. Is there's a lot of people out there suffering. We have 80 years to make a difference, in my lifetime. What can we do to add significant value? And that's why the Healthy Place was born.
Wow. I love how God uses, I know this for my own life as well, how God uses things that look like on the outside look a tragedy, and certainly in some cases really are. There's some pretty significant things that people go through and so forth. But I love how he can use that. If we give it over to him, he can use that, turn that into something amazing. Because if it hadn't been for your mom being diagnosed with cancer, not that I at all believe that God willed that to be. I don't believe that God wills for us to be sick. Otherwise,
Sure.
why would Jesus be walking around healing everybody? Because
Right.
that wouldn't make sense. And why would he create us to be unhealthy? That doesn't make sense. But that being said, we do live in a broken world, in a fallen world, and so things happen. But he can use those things to be able to get us where we need to be, or to learn something, or to unlearn something. Maybe
Yeah.
like you talked about, like the life that you were living. It's like sometimes he'll use things for us to learn how to rely more on him. So I love that.
It's fascinating. It's really cool because in the moment, regardless of the trouble, struggle you face, it's hard to see through the trees, the forest through the trees. And God really does have a plan. And it's really refreshing and cool to remember that no matter how crazy or hard things get, that there's a maker that's in control. I mean, that to me still, when I remember that, I get, energized and excited again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to share a comment from Vanessa again, who's been watching. Thank you for this. This is so incredibly true. Everything we do impacts our hearts. And that is why I tell our clients that come in, your response is so important. It defines your journey today.
Wow.
100%. 100%.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. And as we go along here, I'd love to hear everyone, your comments and so forth. Please share them in the chat. We want to hear from you. That's again why we're doing this live, so we get to hear from you and we get to dialogue. So now, Tim, let's talk about the business itself. Okay, so you started the Healthy Place. You now have 4 locations. You just were thinking about having one. Now you got 4. You've got this manufacturing, I should say, a warehouse. You've got a warehouse where you store it. You've got an e-commerce site and everything. Now, there's a way that you do business because you have brought your faith into your business. There's a way that you do it differently. And I know on several levels the way you do that. And so maybe you can unpack a little bit of that in terms of how you relate to your customers, how you relate to your employees, how you approach the business priorities overall.
Yeah. That's an exciting conversation because, I'll share a story that maybe paints the picture best. When we first started the first brick and mortar store in Fitchburg, right outside of Madison, Wisconsin, you put the house on the line, you risk everything to get this loan to start this dream that you believe is inside of you. And you have a lot of hopes connected to that, dreams connected to that. And there is stress involved. And those first months and even couple years, 2010, 2011, was, are we going to be able to get enough sales in order to pay the bills? And anyone that's ever troubled or struggled with financial issues before, knows that pressure of, am I going to make the mortgage? Am I going to make my lease payment? And there was an early day, because I'd pray before I went in the stores each day. And I was praying one day to God. I was like, God, give me sales. I need sales. You put this dream in me and I need sales. And it was like a arrow that struck to my heart where he said, do you desire souls, as much as you desire sales? Like, what about souls? So then it was like souls before sales. And this has sort of become a mantra in my own life. Whenever I get my eyes on the dollars, whether it's a new business venture, expanding, whether it's a relationship with a manufacturer or vendor, if my eyes get too much on the dollars, not that I can't be a wise business guy, but the soul before the sale, souls before sales. And so that has been a mantra in my own life, and that's trickled out to our wellness consultants, who are our sales staff, and our logistics crew who do shipping out of the website. Everything we do needs to come from a place of souls before sales. And that's been really powerful because it's controlled things. Like, we don't do, not that commission is bad, we don't do commission, because I used to work at GNC stores. And you would, we've all maybe talked to that high schooler or college kid, like, wants to get that $2 commission on that protein tub. And I just remember even myself working there of like, man, I want to sell this product because it has a $2 commission. I'm 19. Heck, that could buy, a burrito or something if I sell a couple of these. And I didn't want my sales staff being influenced by commission. I wanted them to recommend that which is most important to the customer. So if somebody hits our live chat feature, if you go to findyourhealthyplace.com, and in the lower right, you go to our live chat feature and you ask a question of, hey, I'm fatigued. What does the natural world have to say about that? Then the consultants on the other side aren't making recommendations based on a commission. They're making it based on what's best for you. And so instead, prayerful decision, let's give our team a bonus based on the growth of gross sales, gross profit rather. Let's base it off of our company's growth year over year, so that if we're making the recommendations and changing lives, we will continue to grow as a company. And there's a variety of different areas. We have some of our own brands. Lively Vitamin Co. is one of the brands that I own. And when there's a choice to use cyanocobalamin B12, which is synthetic, a heck of a lot cheaper than methylcobalamin B12, which is a natural form and your body absorbs it really, really well, and methylcobalamin is more expensive, well, we go back to that souls before sales and say, okay, it costs us more. Is it going to impact more, empower more? Is it going to accomplish our mission more? Yes. So then we choose that. And it's a cool mantra that I think God gave me. It was through a time of prayer that controls everything we do. And what's missing right now is personal impact, especially on the e-commerce space, but in stores too. If a customer comes in and you touch their heart before you ask for their hand, if you impact them, educate them, give them everything you have without asking for a single thing in return. We don't need a sale. Our mission is to impact you right now and help you in your life. And if that's shining through, then that is so powerful, because then we're like a city on a hill, or a business on a hill. We're a bright light that really attracts people, because there's just a lot of darkness out there. And most companies are set up and structured where it's more about the profit. So if we make it more about the soul, more about the human, more about their results, their breakthrough, it ends up being a win-win either way, because then they love us because we've changed their life. But it's interesting how a little change, a little course adjustment can be light versus darkness. Is it souls or is it sales? What's your driver? And if I want to make a difference in this world, so that's been cool. So that's a part of all of our training. We have a 3-month training program for our new wellness consultants that come in. Before they can work with customers, they have to go through this curriculum that we created. So it's 9 modules, it's quizzes, it's tests, it's vendor training, it's role playing. And all throughout that, we've sewn it through, we're souls before sales in everything we do. So it's cool. I'm really proud of it. And Becki, my wife, we run the company together, co-owner. We're both co-owners. And, that's what she has helped us build too, which is really cool to do it as a team. She handles more of a social media, graphic design, brand voice, that sort of thing.
Wow. I love this because number one, mottos or simple little things that people can remember are way more effective than having some long mission statement that nobody can remember. I mean, how many times are there, you'll ask I mean, I've gone into companies and I consult and coach and so forth, and they'll say,
Nice.
here are our core values, and here's our mission statement and our vision and our purpose and all this. And my question is always like, okay, so how many of your people
Mm,
actually know what that is?
mm.
Like, could literally tell me if I asked them right now without having to look at a wall in the the lobby or
Yeah,
something
that's
like that.
telling. Yes.
And so it has to be something that's easy to remember, easy to apply, also maybe difficult in practice. I mean, obviously there takes some unlearning, like we were talking about earlier, in
Hmm.
terms of the way that they may be used to approaching sales if they've worked somewhere else. So there's that. But something that I can remember and I can action on really quickly, I think is really, really valuable. So sales before souls. I'm sorry, souls, the other way around. Souls over sales. And so, something that they can remember, I think that's really powerful. The other thing is that how you tie this into your training. One of
Mm,
the things that I think is really important for businesses, if they want to create transformation, we're talking about leaders of transformation who want to create transformation. It's not just in delivering a state of the union and saying, here's how we're going to
mm,
do it, but it's how do you live it out on a day-to-day basis? And that's where with the training, it's literally woven into the fabric of your business. And
mm.
so I love the way that it
Thank you.
starts off right from the beginning. You live it, you teach it, you make sure that your people fully understand that. You've got an extensive program. I think these are lessons, and I'm pointing them out because these are lessons for people that are listening. And you're saying maybe you're a business owner or you have an organization, maybe a nonprofit, and you're thinking, how do I get people engaged in this? How do I
Mm.
get them to get the message?
Yeah.
And while training doesn't you can't legislate passion and so forth. You do need to train people and teach them certain things, and like I say, unlearning certain. Can you talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about that process? Because I'm sure you've had people that have come in and said,
Yeah.
okay, I got it, and then go off and do their own thing anyway, and you've got to kind of dial them back.
Yeah, it's been a journey. We have 4 brick and mortar stores. We have this 3 different e-commerce companies, and all with supplements. And if you think of our company, you might be listening around the nation here or world, and think of like a vitamin shop or a GNC store, except of course much cooler. And we have a couple hundred brands, thousands of different supplements. There's quite a learning curve there, and in our industry, there's a lot of BS going on. There's a lot of people that claim this works for that and it really doesn't, or it's a crappy form, so it doesn't do what the science was studying because it's a different form of that same nutrient. And there's all these loopholes where you can get a lot of BS in this industry. And so one of the first things I tell our wellness consultants is, hey, this is all about souls before sales. And if I have one hashtag, that I want to be on my tombstone one day, it's like hashtag impact. And what does impact mean to me? It means changing that person's life for the better, even if it's ever so slight, 0.001%, slightly to the better. Hashtag impact. That's what it's about. So there is no reason ever to BS a customer or pretend to know something if you don't know it. We have a great team over here of wellness consultants that have journeyed a long time. And we have, I always tell them, people a lot smarter than me in this industry that are my heroes that we can gain information from. So the goal is impact that customer. And so that's every day to some degree. We have a community communicate. I only have 28 employees. So not like a huge, company or anything. But we have a community that we use on Hangouts. I think Google owns it or something. And we talk every single day. We share testimonies. And hey, we had breakthrough. Jane was like really trying to get rid of her migraines with a natural alternative, a supplement. And she really didn't want to go back to those drugs. After 3 months, we had to use a return policy one time, which is fine. They brought it back, got to store credit for this new idea. And we got breakthrough for Jane, and everybody in the community claps their hands like, yes. And we learn from that. So there's this culture that's been created, but it stemmed back. I like what you said, Nicole, which it stemmed back to like something very simple that somebody could tangibly grab onto. And so all the time, Ryan Cook might say after they hear the Jane story, hashtag impact, and then another story or customer review will come in like, man, I ordered this and I got it so fast and it came with a little handwritten note, which just doesn't happen in this world anymore. And then Jordan might say, hashtag impact, so they cling to these couple words that I've used. And probably because I'm their leader, they just decided to adopt it. But for some reason, they adopted it into their hearts. And it probably stemmed back from me passionately sharing the souls before sales and the hashtag impact, so that every time and everything we do sort of gets impacted by those two things. So if you're a company, I used to wonder, like, how do you create a culture? And people would tell me like, well, as the owner, Tim, it's going to start with you. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, I don't really know how to create a culture. And now in hindsight, we've been open for 11 years. In hindsight, you look back, you're like, oh, you literally just sow into yourself, become a super bright light, become the change that you want to see, and the rest is organic and starts to just happen. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, I guess that's my summary of how we came about having that culture, and how we have different people within our team that'll say impact or souls before sales, and it's radiated outward. So I think if someone's early on, I would just say like, well, don't worry about the culture, because you're going to create a culture, good or bad. And it honestly 100%, or a big part, is you investing in you and becoming the brightest light and the change that you want to see, and the rest will take care of itself.
It's interesting. When you talk about culture, what you're doing, it's almost so obvious, but I want to point it out, is the culture that you're establishing, because you are saying souls before sales, is that you are establishing a culture of love, of compassion, of care.
Thank you.
And as you do that, everything else falls into place around it. And I think that's where, when I look at businesses where I'll walk in and it feels empty, it feels hollow, it's because they've put profit before people, and so it's about a dollar, it's about a balance sheet, and what does the number say at the end? Obviously those things are important, because if your business isn't profitable, if your organization isn't profitable, you're not going to be around very long.
Right. And you can't move your mission forward.
Exactly.
But like you're saying, if it's too much focused on that, boy, I mean, there's got to be a balance, and there's got to be a primary driver at the end of the day. If there's a choice between the two, you choose the soul. You do what's best for the person, no matter what it costs the company.
Yes. And then what happens is that spirit actually, it's like permeates the fabric of your organization. And it just, when you go in different place, like I'm sure what happens when you go, people walk into your place, it feels different than it would feel if they were just to go into another store. Now,
thank you.
I've been in nutritional supplement locations where I did feel and I don't know that they were believers or not, but it felt very warm and inviting. So this is that spirit that we're talking about, whether people are aware of intentionally where it's coming from or not. It is that love, it is that compassion that they're incorporating into that. And so that's really, really powerful. I want to, a couple of things. First of all, Vanessa, thank you. Vanessa's got, she actually shares here another comment and says, thank you both. I love the Lord so much. And he took me out of a really dark addiction 6 years ago. And I struggle for 8 years, off and on with this addiction. And he showed me that his love is what we need. And we need to show up every day and bring his love to every situation.
That's awesome.
How perfect is that? Considering what we've just been talking about here.
It is exactly right on. If we would just show up every day and say, okay, what can I do today? Hands out like this, right? I mean, what a beautiful picture. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, actually, I would love to invite our audience who is watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So my question is, as it relates to what we've just talked about, is how do you feel about bringing your faith into the workplace? So you can post that in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Some of you might say, I love doing that. Some of you might be thinking, I'm not sure. What does that have to do? It's like the separation of church and state and all that good stuff that people argue about. So I would love to hear from that. If you want to post that in the chat, how do you feel about bringing your faith into the workplace, whatever that faith is? So let's continue on, and we'll watch for those questions to pop up. But so speaking of health and wellness, obviously you own a company. You know that you mentioned also that other company that you own. So like you have your own product lines and so forth that you endorse and so forth. How do you vet those products? You alluded to it a little bit before, but how do you vet them with also obviously you need to be profitable? And one of the products that I know is still somewhat controversial is CBD. And how do you view that and that whole, even that introduction and all the resistance that came up in the beginning? How did you deal with all that?
Yeah, boy. So the first question is, how do you vet? I have over 100 brands that we carry on our website and our stores. And what people don't know is you can have a vitamin C product sourced from China, and you can have a vitamin C product sourced from Scotland. And the vitamin C product sourced from Scotland will be much cleaner than that which comes from China. So that's conversation number one. Sourcing is a really, really big deal. Number two, you can have a vitamin C product that says 500 milligrams, and you can buy that product, take it for years, and then find out that that capsule didn't have 500 milligrams of vitamin C in it at all. And that's conversation number two, is potency. Is it what it actually says on the label? And who's checking that? So that's conversation number two. Conversation number three is you can have a vitamin C in ascorbic acid form, sodium ascorbate, calcium ascorbate. And people don't know that calcium ascorbate form of vitamin C absorbs 4 times greater than ascorbic acid vitamin C. So if we're talking about a conversation, say immune system or antioxidant support, the calcium ascorbate form of vitamin C will boost your immune system and strengthen your body quite a lot more than an ascorbic acid form. So that's conversation number 3, is forms of ingredients. So when you are working with a brand, you can have good, better, or best in each one of those 3 conversations, which makes it pretty complex pretty fast for a user or a customer to know who do I talk to? Who do I go to when I want quality multivitamin, quality fish oil, quality antioxidant, anti-inflammatory? I have sleep problems. Who do I talk to? So I'll advise people, don't go to your big box stores. Obviously, I'd love your business, findyourhealthyplace.com, or popping into our stores in Madison if you're visiting. In the same breath, you have some great health food stores probably in your local area, which is wonderful to support too. So bottom line, don't go to big box stores for your supplements, period, because where they source from, the potencies and forms of nutrients and what it actually says it has in the label that is actually in the pill is not always trustworthy. And so they usually sell what's cheapest, and that's what the big box stores do. So I encourage people, go to I like to call them mom and pop health food store. Sometimes they might have a hippie vibe, which is okay. Other times they might be more like our stores, which is just, kind of regular people, not making fun of hippies. Hippies are cool. And you want to
We have a lot of those out here in California, just saying.
Yeah, go hippies. That's awesome. I got some good friends that are still total bell bottoms, got the Beetle, car that they're driving around. It's awesome. With that, health food stores are going to care much more about you, and they're going to want to be making a difference in your life. So then they'll make recommendations based off of that, and they have a lot more knowledge. If you don't have a health food store in your area, use findyourhealthyplace.com to use that chat bubble. Doesn't mean you got to buy anything ever. That's a free gift we give to the world. Live chat feature. You're immediately connected to one of our wellness consultants that are giving you information, giving you brands that are quality, options that work. What does a natural world have to say about Crohn's disease? What about immune deficiency? What about adrenal fatigue? What about migraines? What about stress, anxiety, chronic pain? The list goes on. You can expect answers that aren't motivated by dollars and commission. And furthermore, one question you asked is, how do you make sure that it's sourced from a clean place, good forms, good potencies, what it actually says on the label? And that's where you either have to have the knowledge to personally vet a specific brand, or you have to trust somebody that does know the different brands. Because after nearly 20 years, I'm 37 now, about 18 when I started at a GNC store back 18 years ago. What I've learned is there's a lot of different brands, and there's only two ways: become super knowledgeable about how to vet a brand yourself, or trust somebody that does. And you have to have one of those. So most people don't have 40 hours a week to research different forms of vitamin C. So that's where I'll encourage people: find somebody that you can trust. Maybe it's your naturopath. Maybe you have a good chiropractor. Maybe you have a good acupuncturist. And a lot of times they're selling something, so they're obviously motivated. But if you're going to them for that service, you can trust them more so than you would a big box store or online.com that you're going to for some supplement, having no idea what this is. So find an expert, trust them. If you don't know anyone, use our live chat feature to guide you. NSF, GMP certifications on a specific brand guard content, but they don't guard where it's sourced from or the forms of nutrients, which is why it comes back to having to really know yourself or know an expert that can guide you in this area. So that's what we love to be to people. And that's what's missing in our nation right now when you talk about a supplement e-commerce space. Is there's a lot of places we can go to buy supplements, but where can I go where I'm going to talk to somebody that believes in souls before sales, that believes in recommending that which is going to make a difference or has the highest probability of making a difference? Because there's so much darkness out there, and there's so many people suffering in different conditions, diseases, and they simply don't know that there's natural alternatives that absolutely work. Regardless of what you're facing, there's natural alternatives that can either come alongside your doctor's plan or help under your doctor's supervision, help people get off the medications. I mean, I'm not kidding, Nicole, I get 6 to 12 testimonies per day out of our customer base saying, hey, I got off my sleep medication. I got off my opiates. I got off my anxiety and depression medications. And thank you, The Healthy Place. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Billy. Thinking through my team, because here's what happened. They asked a question. They had enough courage to ask a question, and that started a healthy conversation about what the natural world via supplements has to say about treating that specific issue. And their life was changed from it. So that's where I'm always trying to inspire people. Ask a question, whether it's our live chat feature, whether it's in our stores. You can call our stores if you want to have a phone conversation, or go to somebody that you can trust and ask that question, because that's the fork in the road. I mean, people go down a dark path, heavily medicated. Usually medications lead to more medications and higher potencies of those medications, and they're suffering more and more and more till they're 70, 80 years old. You look in their eyes and they're not even fully there because they're so heavily medicated. We've all bumped into those folks, and there is natural alternatives. I watched it happen with my mom, and I've watched it happen with thousands of customers since we started The Healthy Place. And I want to inspire a nation. I want to inspire a world to ask that question, because our way our medical system is set up right now, I mean, we have some of the best doctors and pharmacists in the world, and I'm thankful for them. We're not educating the population on natural alternatives, and people need to know about that because they don't have the same side effects. They don't damage your body the way a lot of pharmaceutical products do. And the drugs treat a symptom and then damage the body in different ways. Natural alternatives, if it works, treats the same symptom and helps the body. It's a beautiful turnaround, and I love talking about it.
Well, clearly, yes, you are absolutely passionate about what you need to be able to really dive into this and have and that brings up another point, is that in order for you to be successful at something and really make a hashtag impact, you have to be passionate about it, because you got to dive into the messiness of, like you're talking about, of ingredients and sourcing and even the housing, the capsules and all of the
delivery
stuff.
system. Yep.
And it, like, I know that for myself. I mean, just a quick story here is that years ago, about 1998, so we're talking 23 years ago, I went to what's called an environmental doctor, and I had some issues, and so I went there, and they did some scratch testing, prick testing on me, and said I'm allergic to all these things, and this is what you need to do, and so forth, and then I went on from there, because I didn't believe they wanted to give me shots, multiple shots per week, and so forth, and that didn't work for me, because I happen to not like shots. So I don't like needles.
I don't either, yeah.
It was a problem. So I was like, okay, well, what else can I, what are my other options? And so I went to another holistic practitioner, and then another one, and then another one, and just went through this series of things. And as I went down the rabbit hole, realized the severity of what I was dealing with. It wasn't the surface, which is what the doctor wanted to do, was just prescribe some things that would help on the surface. But I realized underneath why it was actually happening. And I was blessed, like you talk about passion, I was blessed with people that, some of them a little hippie, little out there, eccentric and so forth, but certainly knew their stuff incredibly well, and were able to guide me through the process of healing from the inside out. And what an incredible journey it was, even for me to learn how the body works. Like, you can tell when somebody knows how the body works, and they're like, no, it works like this and that and so forth, rather than, well, I heard this was really good, or, again, like you talk about the Band-Aid therapy, it's just night and day. And I can tell you, I would not be here today if it wasn't for those people. And so powerful. And back 23 years ago, there weren't health food stores on,
it was only the hippies that knew about that stuff. So they led the way. Thank you, hippies.
That's exactly. And so, there was one place, and I think all of Toronto, that I found that sold like non-wheat yeast bread, and you had to go on the other side of town just to get it if you wanted any kind of bread that I could eat. And so, but now we have this opportunity. So the downside there was very little information, but whatever information was accurate. Now you've got the downside of all this information. Everybody's jumping onto the bandwagon. But like you said, there's a lot of BS in the industry, and now you got to weed through it. So it's available, but now you got to weed through it to determine what is accurate and what is not. And what's unfortunate is when people say, well, I tried that and it didn't work. And to your point, I was thinking about what you just said, is that they may be saying, well, it didn't work because actually the potency wasn't there, the sourcing and all of that hadn't been resourced. The absorption. So they're absorbing it, they're taking health by the handful. But it's not absorbing into their body, which I discovered years ago was happening with me. It was like, I wasn't actually absorbing any of these vitamins. So I was spending hundreds of dollars a month on these vitamins, but they weren't being absorbed in my body. And so when they started to help me to absorb, all of a sudden I could reduce the amount that I needed to take and get more effectiveness from it.
Exactly. So perfect point.
I love what you're doing. Oh my gosh, we could talk all day about this. There's so much. So I would encourage our listeners to go to, and you mentioned it a couple times here, findyourhealthyplace.com, ask questions. And I love the fact that, Tim, you're saying, look, just ask us questions, even if you don't ever buy a product, just because, again, your mission drives your behavior and your actions and so forth. And so your mission says, the sales will come, but we need to focus on what's most important first. And if we do that, everything else will follow.
We'll take care of itself. Yes. And I do have a gift for you and your listeners.
Cool.
If anybody doesn't, again, I'm a big fan of, if you have somebody local that you can trust, give them your business. That's a wonderful blessing to give them. If you don't, findyourhealthyplace.com is a great resource. And I created a coupon code, transformation, that will give 30% off the full price. And that's just a gift to you, to your listeners. If findyourhealthyplace.com ever becomes a resource, I want your listeners to get that discount.
Wow. That is awesome. So they just use the coupon code transformation and they get 30% off.
30% off the full price, just to be clear.
Price.
Yeah,
there's
the full discounted price, full price. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you need to make money in a business for it has to be profitable.
Yep.
So if you're
I
giving
tell
away,
my people, I mean, if you got a business, people, because the other side is people are scared of profit. They feel like they're taking advantage of people if they make money. And I have a dream to impact the whole world. I want to make a difference. Like I said, in my 80 years, I want to help 1 billion people and add light and add value to their life. And to do that, you have to have some sort of profit to continue to pay for and hire and drive the mission forward. So it's a beautiful thing. I really enjoy growing transactions, and I enjoy a big sale. And it's just keeping that perspective of souls before sales that's really important for all of us to be aware of. So yeah, it's a cool topic. I like talking about it.
Absolutely. It's not an either or, it's a yes and.
Yes.
It's just putting them in order. Mm-hmm. Tim, thank you so much. What an you inspired me today, and I'm sure that you inspired our audience as well. Thank you so much for coming on today. I know you've got lots going on, and
welcome.
And even your generosity, Laura, with that the code that you've, for the coupon and so forth for the 30% off. I mean, God,
yeah, it's fun.
I just think and literally I was just about to say, I was like, Lord, thank you for people that are out there in business, making a difference and doing it with a genuine heart to help people. So,
That's awesome.
Thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. And for our listeners, thank you for watching, for listening, however it is that you're consuming this content. We hope that this has inspired you, to not only reconsider the way that you do business, but also inspire you to say, what story, what experience have I had in my life that maybe, was a difficult experience, but I learned something out of it, or I saw somebody that I loved go through something difficult and I saw them be transformed and be helped by a certain service or something that had helped them to get back up. Maybe that's a clue. I believe that our pain often is a clue into our purpose. And so maybe you got inspired to be able to really, look at and saying, what am I here? How do I make a difference? #impact. How do I make that impact in the 80 years that I have? And so I encourage you.
I love that.
To really think on that. Don't just consume this content and go on to the next. It's not about quantity so much as it is about the quality and what you do with it. Leaders of transformation take action. And so we encourage you to take action today. I also want to encourage you to tune in next week. Next week, we've got another amazing guest that will be coming on, and we'll have another great conversation. So tune in next Tuesday for that. Also, go to theleadersoftransformation.com. All of the show notes, all of the previous 387 episodes are going to be up there as well, with lots of amazing guests that are making a difference in the world. And so you can check out those interviews, and you can search. There's a search field on that website where you can type in a particular topic, and every topic that or episode that we've done on that topic will pop up. So we made it very user-friendly for you to do that. So we encourage you to do that. Again, Tim, thank you for being here today. Oh, and of course, go to findyourhealthyplace.com and get your questions answered about health and wellness, any products that you're not sure about, ingredients and so forth. And of course, take advantage of the coupon that Tim has offered, 30% off the regular price. Transformation. Just type in transformation.
Yeah, so coupon code transformation will get you that discount. Our Facebook, Becki, my wife, we're co-owners together. She has a wonderful, encouraging for families, how to travel with your kids, recipes. It is on Facebook, The Healthy Place, and Instagram. We were formerly known as Apple Wellness. These are ways that we can become inspired, just like listening to this podcast, Leaders of Transformation. It's powerful because it's content that is powerful for your very being, for eternity. I want to inspire with one parting word is to be driven by eternity. Whether you are leaders of transformation as a stay-at-home mom or dad, or whether you're a new employee working at Taco Bell, or whether you are leading a company, you can be a leader of transformation for that which is good, that which is light. And I just want to remind you that life is such a gift. It's so powerful and so worth fighting for, and fighting for others as well, that life is a gift. To remember that fact every single day and make a difference with the words that you can have coming out of your mouth, the actions that you can accomplish with your hands. And man, I just love the message that you're sending out here on this podcast. And if you're listening, just be impacted, take it, run with it. Life is a gift. Don't forget it.
Amen. I couldn't have said it any better. I'm going to leave it there. Tim, thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening. Me. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to, I know we're going to stay in touch, and I'm, your mission of impacting 1 billion lives is very much in line with what I'm about and what other people that I know are about as well. And so I know we're going to be able to do some things together to make a huge impact. So
I'm pumped.
Yeah. Cool.
Go team.
All right. Yeah. Go team. And thank you all for listening. We'll look forward to seeing you next week for another awesome guest. Please join us live, get your questions answered, and we'll make sure that, again, we just keep bringing the heat, bringing the passion, so that you can be inspired to be the difference maker and the world changer, the leader of transformation that you're capable of being. Bye-bye. We'll see you next time.